For our prelude today, you heard America the Beautiful, one of my favorite inspirational hymns. I am a proud American. I really am. And hearing those patriotic songs really warms my heart. I know at these times it can be a bit challenging to be a proud American, but I do stand with my country, and I do believe that our vision of our country is great and strong. And one of the things I would like to read to you, we're all familiar probably with the very first verse of America the Beautiful, but I want to read to you the third verse of that song, and I think it's very relevant for today's message. O beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff. My name is Ryan Conley. I use he, him pronouns, and I have the honor of serving as worship associate today. I also serve as co-chair of our worship committee. I first came to this church just about a year ago at a time when my heart was aching and I was seeking a place of comfort. I found it here among a community rich with goodness, with love and acceptance. Here we welcome you as you are. Whatever your story, your faith, your identity, your background, your mobility, your economic circumstances, your immigration status, your orientation or gender, know that your presence here is a gift. If there is anything you need to make your time among us more comfortable, please let me know, or anyone here know. We will do our best to meet that need. If you are visiting with us this morning, I am confident that you will find yourself not only welcomed, but also loved and appreciated. For Unitarian Universalist, worship takes many forms. We do not ask for creeds or fixed beliefs. Instead, we gather in the spirit of openness and compassion, honoring each person's inherent worth and dignity and seeking together to grow in love and understanding. Worship is a time to center our hearts, to find hope when despair presses in, and to draw strength from community when the world feels more uncertain. On this autumn morning, may our worship remind us of our shared humanity, inspire gratitude for those who serve, and renew us in the courage to build a more compassionate and peaceful world. Welcome, friends. Let us worship together. We light our chalice today in gratitude for all who have served, for those who answered the call of duty, and for those who carry unseen burdens of war. May this flame remind us that true courage is not only found in a battle, but in the steadfast work of peace, in the healing wounds, restoring hope, and reaching across divisions of nation and hearts. As this light burns, may it kindle our resolve to be a people of peace, a community of care, and a beacon of compassion in our world. This morning we gather to remember the faces, the names, the unseen stories woven through generations of service. We gather not to glorify war, but to honor the courage of those who gave themselves in the hope of something greater, the dream of safety, of freedom, of home. May we remember the cost of conflict and the power of compassion. May we honor the fallen by the way we live and bless the living through our acts of peace. Let us enter this time of worship with open hearts, grateful for service, mindful of sacrifice, and committed to peace. Thank you.
It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce my friend Bobbye Eachus. She is the key person in my life who made me proud that I was a veteran. And as a soul sister, she's one awesome person. Please welcome Bobbye Eachus.
Howdy, y'all. My name's Bobbye, and I am grateful to be here. I don't know if you felt the time change the way I have, but I find myself going, well, this 5 minutes went away, and that 5 minutes went away too. I've got a sign out in my front yard that says, "Peace is patriotic." And it is. Not that our warlike natures always inspire us to share words that would lift others up. But I find that the reason I went back into the closet to proudly wear the uniform was that I believe in family. I believe in the privilege of the freedom that we gain because we can speak freely without being incarcerated, without being prosecuted. Not to say that, human beings and our shortcomings don't compete ruthlessly for space and resources. I am a proud soldier from the Desert Storm era. I served when it was against the law for me to impersonate a straight person in uniform. And I was really lucky to get through my career without being deposed or punished for that privilege. I come from a long line of veterans. There is at least one in every conflict going back to before our country. Over in Europe, they volunteered. But especially here. There's one or two cousins in every generation. And the thing that's most important was that the idealism of good exceeded the fact of challenge. It's real easy to wonder if my family members sometimes are here in the same place with me. We use the same words, but we don't communicate the same things. And one of the things that I'm super happy about is that on a few things we can always agree. Courage is moving forward, even though I'm scared to death. Motivation is moving, even though I can't catch my breath. And to assist the little ones and the elders, that's the reason I showed up. And that's the reason I continue to show up. These young men and women who swear in today are some of the most magnificent examples of human spirit. This is a confusing time to be in uniform. There are many extremes and many conflicts. And what makes the American service member unpredictably elite in most settings is that we are trained to make our own decisions. We're trained to follow instructions. We're trained to function within parameters. We're trained to look out for each other. We're trained to tell the truth. We're trained to be valiant in spirit, although for love of country, for dedication to duty, for the embodiment of the things that each of us personally hold as the essence of a free citizen. And it's all colors, brothers and sisters. It's all nationalities. And we're all immigrants. My native relatives are like, we should have closed the borders before you guys took over. You're like termites. You're everywhere. And once you're there, you're pretty hard to get rid of. And the deal is rarely the deal. And wars are decided on by people that aren't going to be affected by it too much. The people that suffer are the ones that are affected by the loss of services and resources, clean water, the availability of food, the availability of safe education, the freedom of a safe neighborhood. And when I look around, I try to remember that the fear isn't the fact, but it is a fact for someone. And I have to be mindful and compassionate of that, because being afraid of where your next meal's going to come from, or the fact that perhaps I won't have a pony or a car to get where I'm going. I may not return to my home and have it available to me. We're a pretty affluent group. We have it all. We could drink the water out of our toilets. It's potable. If we had to. And there are many places that I've been where the water wasn't safe. There are places that I've been in the United States where the water's not safe. So, I also come from people that were persecuted because their spiritual or religious beliefs were not accepted. And they caused fear. And they were tarred and feathered and run out of town. And their houses were burned to the ground so that they'd go away and never come back. Right here in America. And in serving in Desert Storm, I believe that the greatest service that I did in my very brief war was we brought home the Vietnam veterans, and we righted a deep and abiding wrong that we did to 2 generations. The ones that also served in Korea and the ones who were my parents. So to all of you who have ever worn the uniform, to all of you who have been first responders on our own soil or overseas, thank you for your service. And that's a capital S, because we serve with a commitment that we're willing to sacrifice even our very lives for some ideas that not everyone holds precious. And if they do hold it precious, they may not have the greatness of spirit to offer it to everyone. I've broken bread overseas with Arabic families. I've broken bread here at home with relatives from India or the islands. And ultimately, it's all about the food. It's about coming home to eat and to feed each other's spirit and to celebrate that there's a safe place to love. Everybody's got a mama and daddy, and we don't get to choose them. And sometimes they're poor examples of human beings, but they're the ones that we came here to love and heal that family. I really believe that with all my heart. And just like we talk about our Heavenly Father, I believe that there's also a Heavenly Mother. And I think that we don't talk about her, that she's protected because she's not a target or subject of discussion very often. And I was actually talking with my mama on the way here, and I thanked her for being that touchstone for me that represented that Heavenly Mother that loves me, that accepts me, that cheers me on. And there's some sadness in my heart. I lost my father a year ago, March. And he was a Vietnam vet, served in the Air Force. He did one contract, I did one contract. My brother did one contract. So we're not lifers. We're a little fickle. You know, we're like, whoa, I think I'll try my hand at normal life. My pronouns are she, her, and I am part of the LGBTQ community. And I'll be marching in the little Veterans Parade over at Fair Park with my fellows that are also LGBTQ veterans. Y'all are more than welcome to come on out because every other kind of veteran's also going to be there. And it should be a very fun time. When we need to, our decorum is correct. The highest mark of civilization is the ability to be polite, the ability to be kind, especially to those who have nothing to gain. It's my honor to love those principles, to feel I would defend them even today. I know what I know, what I know, and I can't unknow it. And I'm so thankful I'm not alone in the room, because I can see the sparks in your eyes. Somewhere along the line, somebody was a good example, even if they were a good example of a bad example. Sometimes we just need to know where to look, what to love. There's always somebody to pray for. My Native relatives taught me that as we grow and heal, we grow and heal and bring into balance 7 generations forward and back. The counterbalance on that is addiction is deeply harmful. Whether it's the addiction to taking life or the addiction to chemicals that make the pain stop. And they can harm 7 generations forward and back, which guarantees, again, that we always have somebody to pray for, to lift up, to ask Creator to gift them and their family good health and help, protection, provision, instruction, and good examples of being tolerant. Because it's not patience that we struggle with. I know that that's a little controversial in first pass, but patience has a time limit, like a traffic light. It's going to end, and we know it's going to end, and we kind of know approximately when it's going to end. That's patience. You know, you talk yourself into not blowing your gasket for that period of time. But tolerance is a much more complicated action, internal action. It is the contract that I make with myself to behave in a certain way in spite of the circumstances. And sometimes I have to list those circumstances. Sometimes it's a drunk relative. Sometimes it's the me first people who cut in front of me on 75 or in a line at the DMV. I have to remember that my brothers and sisters that walk on 2 legs and operate vehicles, I don't know what happened to them before I had the opportunity to tolerate them. I don't know who stood on their neck, whether it was an abusive family member or a self-consumed neighbor. And I don't know what caused the pain in my communities very often. But I also have to remind myself that the politics are a story. They're simply a story. They are a currency, like time. We manufacture it. We adhere to it. We honor it. We create a space for it, and we share it with each other. And we don't walk in another person's shoes. We don't know where they gathered the facts from. And it's okay to hold two opposing ideas at the same time. I can believe that fire is harmful, and I can have a fireplace. And I think that that moment of compassion and willingness to leave my tolerance open, perhaps I can hear something that will help me understand, because there is nothing that is going to edify me in anger. Fear is helpful, and anger can be helpful too when it's a tool appropriately applied. A hammer's not a murder weapon unless it's in the hand of a murderer or somebody who's out of balance mentally, physically, or whatever. They're far away from themselves in the spirit, or they wouldn't be acting as such. I believe that. Because even adults are just big kids in adult suits. You know, we're all just kind of emotionally figuring out how to do it now. How to share, how to use our words, how to show up and do our laundry and pay our basic bills, to honor those personal contracts we make with others when perhaps we've asked for something they couldn't afford to give us. And then we discovered we weren't able to make good on that contract. How do we renegotiate that? How do we start the conversation without shackling ourselves to shame? Because every one of us has the opportunity to do our very best every day. But when I start out behind the 8 ball because I feel guilt, which is simply the admission that I did something and I'm not proud of it. I did it though. And the obligation to be self-supporting, to do my part. I love some of those old sayings that the elders, when I was little, would say, like, 3 days makes a guest, and after that you pay rent somehow. You know, because a fish begins to stink left out. And my private space, my bathroom, my living room, you know, it's okay if I leave my shoes out there, but I don't necessarily want to trip over a guest's shoes. 3 days makes a guest. And beyond that, you're probably a relative. Or you're an unwanted relative. I heard a saying once that, you know how you can tell when a Rennie has come to stay with you for a little while? And a Rennie is one of those people who follow the Ren fairs. Okay? There are current hippies. You know, they follow it. Well, you can always tell when a Rennie stayed with you because they're still here. And that happens a lot in the winter. Everything's temporary. Whether it's a service contract, and I would do it all again, as difficult as it was to live a dual life. It was what I was willing to do to exercise my birthright to wear the uniform. It was that important. Coming home, I have found that the balm to my spirit has always been found among other veterans, because I can speak to them first. I can tell the truth, and I don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, we understand Downrange. That means, or gas. That means your air's going away. You know? Civilians don't. It's okay. We get it. KP's kitchen duty. If you've been in jail, maybe you know that one. But I love that I love. And I love that I have loved what the flag represents. I love that I still cry every time I hear taps. That was written by a brother whose brother died on the other side during the Civil War. And there was this man that I just read about yesterday. I've read his story before, but it's been a minute. And I believe it was Benjamin, but I know that his last name was Fletcher. And he was an agricultural inspector. And he chose to take care of 3 farms outside San Francisco when our fellow American citizens were interred in prison of war camps on our own soil because Pearl Harbor had happened. And of course, all Japanese had to be evil at that point. And without an explanation, we stole what they had earned. Mr. Fletcher was great in spirit, even though his fellows conspired and threatened and practiced vandalism because he was doing what he felt was the right thing. He made sure that 50% of everything he earned on their farm was waiting in the bank when they finally were released. The war was over. And he said just that. I have to do what is the right thing to do. And I invite you to do the right thing. Say the right thing. Exercise silence when that is the right thing. Please avoid judgment. It's easy to focus on those things because social fear creates a little bubble around us. I don't know what I don't know, but I know that God loves me. I know that Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother are pretty good parents, even if I don't know them real well. I had a friend just this last week on a current event say, how could they let somebody of that race serve in this way? And my response was, I don't understand what you're talking about. I've learned that heart to heart, when I get to know you, I don't notice that you're in a man suit, or you're in a woman suit, or you have darker hair, or more melanin than me, or. And that's a privilege. I've worked really hard to sharpen those skills of, may we have tea and break bread. Let me know who you are, not decide who you are just because of a perception. I have to remember that we each went out there and found our truths. And that's what guides us today. Allows us to take care of ourselves and to reach out to our neighbors and to create a safe place for the kids. And it's not easy. And I have to trust that God is large and in charge and is going to protect even those that venture into dangerous places. And when it's too painful for me to look, it's important that I find an anchor to focus on, a place of service, because sometimes that is the only thing that will ease my discomfort. It's to volunteer. It's to help somebody that maybe didn't ask me for help, maybe wouldn't receive help from me, And I just stayed a little bit out of their space to where I couldn't get kicked or shot, you know. Traffic is a little scary these days. I tell my partner, I'm like, don't be like that, hun. People have handguns, and they're not too tight. And she's like, okay, I didn't mean to scare you. This little guy loves me no matter what. And I'm pointing for those of you who are seeing the video, I've got a service dog, and he wears a patch that says, not all disabilities are able to be seen. And I did not know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I had PTSD. I didn't know that I disassociated, and basically I was there, but I wasn't recording what was going on. And I served during a time where it was not an option to be broken or bent. And what causes PTSD, and it doesn't go away all by itself, it needs a little help. I've tried everything, and I finally had to go get the help, was too much for the human psyche to endure. And I am very, very grateful that in the recent decade, the veteran services have been separated from the defense column of the budget. That used to be when they needed to make the numbers work. It was the veterans that took the hit. Our services. And also the hope that equality, the ideals, that they'll be exercised with more commitment over time. When they passed the PACT Act, it's the first time since the Korean War that the veterans have been taken care of. Unless you were white. Unless. Our regular history. Today, most veterans that are willing to patiently make it through each stage of the system can access adequate, not always excellent, but adequate support. And more of those things are being turned over to the community, which means we're being served by the civilian population, and there's a greatness of spirit there that they can't afford sometimes inside the walls of the VA. You know, being a government employee today is a very difficult thing because it's been a month since they got a paycheck. And I hope that you will lift them up in prayer and support and pray that this will change very soon. I can't imagine being a parent right now trying to explain to my kids why we're not eating the way that we've been eating. So a veteran is simply a human being that's been willing to put on the uniform and go through the training and survive the training and apply the training and learn how to be a civilian after we're no longer in the setting where the training is required. There are literally millions of veterans who never went into a war zone, but they trained to fight. And under the perception of the Vietnam vets that really went through some abuse and that long, terrible, mismanaged police action. I ask you to remember them in your prayers. Because how we train is how we participate. Even today. I still can't put my underwear on the same way. I do it the way they taught me to do it. my socks, my boots. Most comfortable with a hat on my head and loose pants hanging from my hips so that I can move and do what I must do. They taught me to wear gloves to protect my hands. I have a sweet sister that retired with 30 years and became a police officer. And I'm retired there. And struggles because what was promised isn't available because they're not the standard issue. Please pray for them. Please remember them. Please ask that the social climate gently change, because drastic changes don't stick. They work for a minute. They beg us to come out of our protected places. But peace is patriotic, y'all. Really and truly. Thank you for having the greatness of spirit to exercise your privilege to worship as you choose, to associate with who you choose, to break bread and to sing. You make us proud to be in your presence. You outrank us, actually, because we swore to serve you, we're the help. So thank you for the compliments when you say, I appreciate you. Sometimes I feel unworthy because I didn't give my life. I'm lucky. All I did is become a little spooky. And they're putting me back together and I'm feeling like it's worth it. I just recently got retired out and I'm liking retirement pretty good. I also don't know what to do with myself half the time. But things are looking prettier around the place and I'm happy about that. So I think I'm going to offer you just the interpretation of my favorite Native song. And that is, Creator, I'm having a hard time protecting Mother Earth. I bring only my peace. Homotakiasi.
My closing words today are, as we prepare to leave this sacred time, may we carry with us the hearts of gratitude for those who have served and those who continue to serve in quiet, unseen ways, and for the gift of community that binds us all. May our remembrance lead us not toward war, but toward understanding. May our gratitude deepen into action, acts of kindness, compassion, and peace. Go now, remembering the truest honor we can offer is to live with courage, to care without limit, and to work for the peace they once dreamed might come true. May this flame we lit this morning continue to burn in our hearts, a beacon calling us to love boldly, to remember tenderly, and to live our lives in the service of peace.